Hey everybody, Silas here. Just wanted to give you guys a quick video update on the first, I guess, full day at Cent Summit. So, if you probably know by following the notes that I push out, that I'm at Cent Summit here in Dallas this week, and yeah, I just want to give you guys some updates. I figured a video would be a little bit of fun thing to do. It's not something I've done before, so we're gonna run with this. So the I guess the big point I'll start off with is, first of all, what is Send? So if people are not familiar with Send Summit, I'll give you a quick intro. So Send Summit is an event put on by Sent Ventures, which, how I would kind of classify them, is effectively a community of Catholic CEOs and founders who have reached some level of traction in their business. So they know there's kind of a demand for their work, and they're Catholics and they're looking for community and for guidance on different things. Kind of, you could think of it like a networking group or a mastermind in some ways, similar to Hampton, but in this case, instead of people just talking about general business ideas, general business problems, they can specifically relate to the challenges they face with their faith. So, pretty interesting project. John Canon is the founder of that, and he's got a really interesting story, which I'll talk to you a little bit about today. But yeah, my first time attending this summit, and I had heard good things about it in the past, so wanted to check it out myself. So I'm here in Dallas, and I'm kind of giving you guys some of the updates from it, so you can get some of the benefits without having attended. The one thing I'll also point out about Cent is they really tend to focus on like venture scalable business ideas and companies. And I will also note I'm not a member of Send, but this conference is open to non-members. So I'm excited. So the conference itself opened on Tuesday night, so yesterday night, at the time of recording at least, with a cocktail reception, and it goes all the way until Friday about midday. And today, Wednesday, was basically the real opening of the conference portion. And the first part of the day was Mass. Well, there was actually confession before Mass, Liturgy of the Hours, and Adoration. I ended up being a little bit late because I met a friend of mine for coffee this morning, so I didn't make it to the full Mass, but still got to attend Adoration and the Liturgy of the Hours, which is really, really interesting. Very formal. It's just awesome to see the entire church is like full of these people who are all from Cent, because the church wasn't open to non-Cent folks. So all these people at the conference, everybody attending Mass, it was just really, really cool. One thing that I thought was really interesting is the priest who gave the sermon is a Dominican priest, and he mentioned this ministry he's doing where he went to some of the big tech companies, including Microsoft, and found some prominent Catholic leaders there, and they sent out an email to the Catholics in the company. And I think something like 200 people expressed an interest in being able to have daily Mass. So he's doing this in DC near one of their offices, where I think close to now 40 something, I think he said 40 or 50 people drive off campus like a mile and a half or something to come to Mass pretty much every day. And that was just really, really cool to me, because he's able to preach to them in a specific way just for them at Microsoft. So that was really cool. Once we went back to the hotel, we had the first part of the conference opened with a talk from John Canon on building like the saints. So he talked about his journey and effectively the vision behind Sent. And my biggest takeaway was that many saints were founders in some way, often of religious communities, or religious orders, and we can still learn from their example as founders, right? Founding a religious order in many ways is similar to founding a company or some kind of ministry. So John had a 6-part kind of framework that he has identified as to what these entrepreneurs of the spirit, I think is the word he used, what these entrepreneurs of the spirit focus on. And the first one, I'll just mention the first one of those, was they seek God first. Probably no surprise to you, but if you're interested in the other 6, he has actually a white paper. I don't know if it's available to the public, but he has printed it out for us. I might cover it at some point, but it's really, really interesting to hear his background a little bit. Then this was really, really, really cool. We got to hear from the founder of Domino's Pizza, Tom Monahan, and he told us his story and some of the lessons on the way. It was, you can tell he's slowing down a bit. He's getting a bit older, but this was super inspiring. I was sitting in the second row, just in the middle aisle, so I'm kind of like have a really great line of sight to Tom as he's speaking, and just throughout the talk, I felt like he was talking to me so many times, because he's looking over And I don't know if he was looking at me or behind me, but it was like it looked like he was just talking to me, and it's just really, really inspiring to me. I had never actually heard his story. I've heard about him many times, and how he founded Ave Marine University. He talked about how he like spent like over $400 million kind of building that up and building up the town around it as well. And he also helped or founded the Legatus Institute. So, and he was also the owner of the Tigers, the Detroit Tigers, at one point. So he's just really like fascinating individual, and just so many really cool things. I probably will do a post at some point specifically about his talk. I would say perhaps the most impactful thing I could offer to you now from that talk for me was how he achieved all this kind of success. He went in a very systematic way about figuring out what he wanted to prioritize in his life, and after he achieved kind of just wild success and having so much money, he bought all these cars, bought jets, helicopters. He just kind of like living a very luxurious lifestyle, he said. And then reading Mere Christianity, he read about the sin of pride and how it's the greatest sin, and it just kind of hit him between the eyes, because he said, if pride is the greatest sin, then I'm the biggest sinner. And he made this kind of vow to stop living such a lavish lifestyle, and from there on has really stayed true to that. So that was just genuinely super inspiring, because you hear about these people, but rarely do you get to see them in the flesh. Like, he's just another man, and it's so incredible what he's been able to achieve, and how he genuinely is like he kind of recognizes that God's work was in him. This wasn't of him. This was from God, and all of his success is not something he can take all the credit for. So really, just truly inspiring talk. So I hope to talk more about that at some point. After that, we ended up having a panel on how to build a saintly culture. And this panel, I mean, this was incredible. It was made up of people who have run organizations anywhere from 10,000 to 70,000 people. The former CEO of Western Digital, I think is the name of the company, is a huge Fortune 500 company, 70,000 people, basically like a data storage business. They talked about many, many different things around building culture. But my biggest takeaway from that discussion was that leadership sets the culture. So if you want to change the culture, change yourself and demand that the other leadership puts in the work as well. And I think this speaks similarly to what the spiritual combat discusses on the most important thing that each of us individually can do in advancing the kingdom of God is to develop our own spiritual lives, because it's more important than evangelizing to others or anything like that. Because if you develop a very good interior life, you are basically going to shine the light of Christ to those around you. That will cause them to be curious and cause them to be interested. And in the same way, as business leaders, we can do that through our businesses, but through our culture, which we have the privilege as founders and CEOs to set that culture in our companies and our teams. And it starts with us. So, as people who like to make things happen, what a better way. I mean, it's so awesome that it's within our power to kind of have that autonomy to really set that thing. So that was my biggest takeaway from that. It was kind of mind blowing. After that, we stopped for lunch, got to meet some great people, and then we had three different breakout sessions. After that, there was three different ones to choose from. I chose the future of media, or future of evangelization through media, and it was a panel with some really, really cool people. So it was moderated by a deacon who actually used to work at Disney, and then the current CEO of EWTN, Michael Warsaw, a partner at Nova Media Group, Lorenzo James Henry. He's also acted in some movies, like in some shows, Fear of the Walking Dead, Mall Cop 2, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it was pretty cool to see, this guy who's got an acting career, but also up there on stage living his faith. And then also the CEO of Great American Media, Bill Abbott. He used to be the CEO of Crown Media, which is actually the parent company of Hallmark. So I mean, these are titans, right? They're people in the space doing some really, really cool things. And it was great because there was a very different age gap between Lorenzo and up to Bill and Michael. So it's great to hear two different perspectives being in the media space. My biggest takeaways from this one were, first of all, in order to help faith-based media companies to win, the entire Christian community, they specifically brought this up that sometimes, Christians and Catholics are kind of feuding effectively. But if we really want more values-based films to win, we need to work together and be better at promoting these films, because if you don't have more at bats, you won't have more successes like The Passion of Christ. And we need more viewership in order to have these films return financially. So, I mean, I thought it was like something very small, but what we individually can do is become promoters of these things, right? When we see that a film is going to be coming out that's promoting good values, pro life things, even if it's like a quote unquote secular film that promotes strong values and virtues, we ought to promote it. We ought to like tell people about it, get it in our local theaters and things like that. So that was pretty cool. The second point, second takeaway, biggest takeaway was that Catholic and Christian media need to step up their production quality to appeal to broader audiences, even outside of the faith-based genre. So you can't just have like, it can't feel like a B movie. It has to be, it has to be really thoughtful and just created with genuine desire to be the best, and to just make the quality so high that people watching don't even necessarily notice that it's a quote unquote Christian movie or a faith-based movie. So that was really cool. After that panel, we ended up doing a small groups session where we had, I think there was like 30 something small groups, and we had, I think, 10 or 11 of us in our group, and we had a really awesome discussion. We went around, kind of introduced ourselves, and then discussed some of the problems that we're going through, or the things that we're kind of seeking feedback on. And I'd say a couple of the key themes were the developing the ability to put our trust in God's will for what He wants in our businesses. I think it's noteworthy that oftentimes as an individual, what we are kind of laying out as a situation, I should say, as we were laying out our let's call it challenges in this group discussion, oftentimes how we'd be saying these things out loud, like 80% of the problem would have been solved by us just through thinking it through, which kind of goes to show that a lot of these problems we must not think through that much, because if all it takes is one conversation, really like discerning this and putting out there open a couple sentences, and you can get 80% of the way to your answer with just a little bit of feedback. I think it's important for us to take that, because it's such an easy step towards, I guess, improving the way we live out our faith in our work. Um, the second point would be that asking for help is important. I think there are some people who they kind of find it unnatural, effectively, to ask for help, because they're not used to it. They're used to working hard and doing things on their own. And I really would promote that we try to do it more, and be willing to admit where we could use a little lift. Then finally, for the end of the day, we had our small groups dinner, just a lively discussion. Overall, really, really great day. I will say that today and yesterday, I got to meet some really awesome people, some amazing legends. Some of the people that you might recognize would be Jamie Baxter, founder of Exodus 90, Jeff Schiefelbein, co-host of the Beatitudes podcast, CEO of EWTN, Michael Warsaw, as I mentioned earlier, Alessandro DeSanto from Hollow, and of course John Canon from Catholic Gentleman. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I've gotten the chance to speak with John in the past over a Zoom call. But great to meet him in person. He's actually he lives near here in Dallas, and just really really great people. I really appreciate how these people have accomplished some amazing things. And even Tom, he's just walking around the lobby. I didn't get the chance to talk to Tom, but these people just like, it's just amazing. It's really honestly an honor to just be able to be around people like this who have accomplished such great things, but they still have that humility about them. So I aspire to try to be like that. I think we all should too. So far it's been great. I look forward to the rest of the conference, and as well, I look forward to filling you guys all in. If you have any particular questions that you'd like me to start asking people, let me know. I do have more um, content that I'll be putting out from the conference, and in particular, I've got a number of questions that I've been kind of asking people frequently. One of those being around whether or not venture scalable businesses are even in the first place aligned with running a Catholic business. I've talked a little bit. One of the questions I've been asking a lot of people is around whether or not a founder should kind of take all the winnings if they sell. And there's a couple other things there. But if you have any particular questions, let me know. And yeah, looking forward to seeing and telling you guys more about the conference as it goes on. Cheers.